Um, yeah, so for some context, basically, I ran a crowdfunding campaign back in, when was it now? It was over last summer. So a new show I was producing, kind of went into it, kind of learned the I knew bits of it, but learned the basics before. Ran a campaign in full, learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes along the way. A lot of stuff I do differently now. So I'm going to go through kind of. I think what I'll do is I'll go through from the basics in terms of choosing a platform, all that stuff, and then I'll kind of we'll go through and effectively make a campaign up. So so for a bit of context, this was kind of the one we did last year. I did last year, so it was new musical theatre, and we tried to raise £7,000, and in the end we raised 568, but kind of still successful, but not. But I went into it probably a bit naive in terms of thinking we were going to raise that much money. So I guess I think the first thing kind of to look at when you're doing this stuff is what platform you want to use. So there's a few. So you've got Crowdfunder, which is this one, which is kind of the big one has a lot of stuff going on, but it's not theatre specific. So if we look at kind of the basic things going on, we've got some like various political stuff, cost of living, a few kind of event stuff of local community spaces, campuses, that sort of thing. It's good, but there's a lot of stuff to kind of there's a lot to try and cut through on this stuff. So it's good. It's good in that there's less theatre specific things. So if you've got somebody who's kind of interested in theatre, who's going on to this looking for something to fund, they're going to come across fewer theatre projects. But the chances of somebody going on to here going, I want to fund a project and I don't know what, is minimal, really, because people don't give away their money easily. And you get caught up a lot of kind of sports club stuff, some political things, kind of you get caught up in that quite easily. It's not until I kind of search for theatre on here. If I search for theatre, you'll see quite a few are coming up, but none of these make it to the front page, really. They're all kind of, and they will raise some money. They'll raise a fair amount of money, but they're not going to be kind of on that front page in the same way some of the other ones are. Well, so that's Crowdfunder. GoFundMe, and there's a few other ones like that, are very much the same. And then if we go on, but then there's also another one that I came across that I nearly used at the time and didn't, called Greenlit, and this is just about kind of theatre and film and arts and music and stuff. So you go on it. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about this in terms of. I thought at first glance it'd be more kind of competitive, but I'm wondering now if having looked at some of this stuff and seen how much is being funded for some of these productions versus Crowdfunder, I'm wondering actually in hindsight whether it's not, because there's lots being funded, but they're all doing fairly well, or at least the ones that they're showing on their front page are. I'm sure that there's others that aren't, and then you can kind of filter by stage, and it comes up with lots of different theatre ones there. So this is lots that are kind of going to Fringe, going to Vaults at the moment, but they're all kind of coming up quite nicely here, and have fairly reasonable kind of funding amounts. So I think.
Is there any reason why these ones come up first when you go on? Is it filtered by, like, if they hit a certain amount of money, like it comes up more like as a standard search, or is it more just?
I don't know, and this is what I'm trying to work out. If I keep scrolling, did it get less funded? I don't know, because you'd think if they were trying to promote their platform,
sites that we that people find us who have no connection to us through these, or is the idea that people are sent to our fundraising through our existing channels?
I would always go with the latter. I think I would assume the latter. I don't.
Right.
I don't. People don't part with their money easily. I don't think anyone would be looking for a project kind of fund unless they went onto the site and then thought, what else? Like what? Oh, that looks interesting, kind of, and other stuff. But I don't think that would happen that much. I mean, if I click on one here, it comes up with everything about it. It doesn't then recommend other projects. I don't think. Yeah, no, so it doesn't kind of have a recommendation sort of thing down the side of you might also like. It's just that project. So I would imagine that most people will go directly via the link to the page rather than look at it in this way, like this is, unless you were planning on doing your own, like I'm looking at for now. But yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about kind of how it lines up against what else is on the platform. I think that's why I went with Crowdfunder, but.
Yeah.
But
okay.
that said, correlation doesn't equal causation. So maybe there isn't that much difference. Maybe there is.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna use Crowdfunder as the example for now. Basically, it's worth saying as well. Greenlit, or at least used to, I think, do kind of a free consultation, like 15-minute Zoom call, if you're interested in using their platform, which wasn't particularly useful, but it meant we can kind of talk through. It wasn't anything I didn't know already, but we can kind of talk through it, and they could kind of give feedback on how that might fit within their platform specifically and stuff. So that's just something to bear in mind. So I'm going to look at it. What I'll do is I'll talk through my kind of a completed project, and then we'll go through the stages of setting one up. So first thing this is kind of showing afterwards, obviously. So normally it has a big kind of counter there showing how far through the fundraising you are. So the first thing that you want to kind of come across, you want a good snappy title. Obviously you want that to kind of stand out, explain what it is. You don't get many characters for that, but it's enough to kind of stand out a bit. And then you can either have just photos and text, or you can have a video. So we did just made a quick video, kind of nothing particularly fancy. It's just recorded on the phone. It's just some background recorded on the phone with like a teleprompter going with we had some background music in, but that's just us kind of talking about the project, basically, because you can portray a lot more through kind of like you can speak it a lot better and kind of talk about the project and get that sense of kind of enthusiasm across. So we had that, and we then had, where's that gone? What is that gone? Yes, we had that. You've got an overview, which is some general stuff about kind of who we are, some photos, some what we're trying to fund, all of that stuff in there. We've got kind of some information on plans for the show, why we're crowdfunding, what we're doing on that stuff. And then we come down into kind of the sections of rewards and what your support will fund. So this is the what your support will fund section is quite a big one in terms of it's giving people kind of tangible assets that they can feel they're contributing towards. So if we kind of say, if we say we're trying to raise a couple of £100 to go towards this production, that doesn't really mean anything to people. Whereas if you say you're trying to, for say, I can't think of one off the top of my head for High School Musical, but if you're gonna do something like Little Shop, you could say then you can kind of have that gauge of we're halfway to Audrey 2, or we're 2/3 of the way to having an Audrey 2, like that. Give it something people kind of related to something people can think of that way, which we didn't really do with this. We kind of, I think, is part of the issue as well, is we put it down of we're paying people a fair wage, but actually that reads to people who don't know what they're doing, don't know about the arts, as give us money and it's going to go straight in other people's pockets. I think so. I would
So
go
would
for
we be
something.
best, for example, with like for budgets, say, all sorted, and then splitting that up and being like, oh, kind of like you've done here with a pie chart, going X amount will go into set, X amount will go into costume, X amount will go into this, like, I'm really displaying so that if someone was to come on, they can be like, oh, well, this is where it would get split between, and or
Yeah, yeah, and this is a point I was about to come on to. Of we put on for way too much. I think I made a mistake of I was quite well. The reason I put 7,000 on is we had access to some fairly rich sponsors that we were hoping would be able to get to donate. And as we go through the rewards, we've got most campaigns will have kind of the most would be like a £50 signed poster, £100 free tickets. We kind of kept going though, thinking we were going to have access to some of those kind of more elite people. So we've got kind of £500 exclusive workshop performances, £2,000 exclusive dress rehearsal access, because there's people that I'm sure if we ask them in the right way may have given us that money, but weren't going to do it just through a crowdfunder, if that makes sense. Like, so yes, so I would probably, in hindsight, I would probably do this now and have that breakdown as I would have it as I don't think you need to be fully transparent with it necessarily. So I would go maybe I'd put maybe we're trying to raise £700, 200 goes to costume, 100 goes to props, and then you can kind of go, we've got enough. Then you can go, as you go through the process on kind of the trajectory of, you can talk about we've raised and we've got a set for the show now, or we've got 3 costumes, only 3 to go. That sort of kind of tangible like progress, I think, is the thing. And I think be honest about what you're planning to spend it on, but don't necessarily worry about the detailed breakdown too much.
within the breakdown, would you prefer or would it be best to put figures, or can you put percentages like 15% of the funds raised go towards this, or is it best to put an exact figure of like an estimated £150 is going to go towards this, or is that up to us?
I think it's all of this is very much up to you. If you can take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt, I would probably go for figures because it pops up, because it's easy. I would go for kind of figures and say, because it means more to people if you can say we've raised £200, therefore we can buy X, Y, and Z, rather than we've raised X percentage of a whole thing. That means I think it means more to say we've raised this amount, only this much money until we can get the next, because people are going to think of it in money rather than percentages. I think.
Yeah, cool.
And yes, and we kind of so because we put down for that we were going to raise 7,000, actually that didn't look very good on kind of on the progress. So I don't know if it's going to come up. Where can I get to it? But it basically on these, whereas say this one was, say we were trying to raise £1,000 and we raised 700 or 500, it's going to come up kind of along there on the bar, which looks a lot better, and then people think it's actually being funded, so they've got a reason to give. Whereas actually ours, our total, it was a good amount of money, but it was probably about 8%, I think it was. So it's going to sit there, or kind of that one, and you instantly look at that and think, no, people aren't giving, therefore it's probably less. Like, why aren't people giving? And you're naturally less inclined to kind of, there's less of a crowd to follow, or it appears that way. So I would always go with kind of a much more achievable target, because you can always exceed it. And as we saw on some of the greenlit ones, it looks great when you exceed it, and kind of it gives a much more kind of, gives people much more confidence in it. So I would go for something achievable and then kind of go and then hope to exceed that. What else I want?
With the reward,
Yes, go for it.
I was just going to say, with like the rewards like you've got there, obviously I know it would depend per venue and things like that, but do you reckon something like, oh, if you donate this amount, we can offer like some tickets and this, like, would that be something we'd be able to work into potentially? Or
Suggest never free tickets where possible, as a last resort, free tickets.
yeah, but if we were looking at it as a reward, like on there, like say you donate, but it's not like it's not like, oh, 10 quid and you get this, like something that is like on the higher end, you could get like this plus this plus this.
Yeah. So yes. So it's kind of completely flexible. Of it, you can. It's what I would. Yeah, I wouldn't offer anything until you've run it past the venue if it relates to the venue. But so we did kind of. The thing with the rewards is the value of the reward doesn't need to equate to the value of what they donate. Like, you want to make sure it doesn't. You want people to donate and then have something to feel good about. And all of the rewards aspect is about making people feel good, feel welcome, feel kind of part of something bigger, part of a family. Like all this, making people feel happy and good about what they're doing, basically. So we've got kind of £5 name in the program. We could probably have pushed that to £10, to be honest. Thank you postcard, we could probably go to 15. Video, we could probably go to 30. I wouldn't necessarily. I think those initial ones what we should have done is done more rewards in the lower end, and done kind of a few, not gone as high. So I think we're on about right of kind of £25 signed program, 50 signed poster, like 100 free ticket. I think that aspect was about right. But so one of the campaigns I kind of ran within this was donate a pint or donate a coffee. So I think actually I probably your name listed in the program should have been like a £3 donation maybe, and kind of just have those more options on the lower end, I think. And then I wouldn't have, in hindsight, I wouldn't have done anything on the kind of above 100 probably. I would have gone down more the individual giving route for that in hindsight and gone kind of approach people directly and gone, would you consider supporting us or sponsoring, etc. So I think that's kind of everything in terms of setting up the page, setting up the campaign. So what you want to think about now is kind of the campaign length and how that fits together. So I was always told kind of you want to go for enough time that you. So I'm just gonna the stuff I was talking about before, where you've got kind of that total. If we'd gone for £700, we're going to try and raise, that'd come up as 80% there, because we said we're going to try and raise 7,000. It sits there and says we've raised 8%, which looks awful, to be honest. So that's something that it's all about, kind of this public facing appearance and making it look like you've got more support. Yeah, so when you set your campaign up, you probably want to be looking at enough time for it to gain some traction, but not too much that it's going to kind of fall apart a bit. So you tend to have a few different trends of people will donate at the very start. You can make a really big deal of launching it, and they'll donate at the end when you can kind of do a last minute push of time's running out, please donate now, sort of thing. And anything in between, they tend to just kind of forget it exists, or there's not that hype about it, and there's not that sense of urgency. So people will look at it and not really do anything about it. So that the first launch, we want to kind of front load it as much as we can. We want to get, if you've got friends and family and people like that who you know will donate, get them. You can launch this site, ask them to donate and send them the link, and then take it public and make a big thing. Because then as soon as your first public supporters are looking at it, you've got money in there already. And having that, for people don't like to be the first ones to donate. So even if, I put a fair amount in myself just on that initial bit, a couple of kind of anonymous 10, 20, 10, £5 donations, because having those few supporters actually breeds more interest initially there. So yes, and then so you want to kind of have almost soft launch it, have a big hit, big marketing campaign at the beginning, and put as much kind of focus on making noise about it as possible, and having a really strong launch. Then the period in the middle is just about keeping going. Really, you'll probably want to recruit. You'll probably want to kind of build more interest about it, but people won't necessarily donate in the middle section. What you want to do is build the interest in the middle section, and then hit them all with a big push at the end of kind of have them thinking about it, and then at the end you go, time's running out, get your donations in now before whatever the date is, or you can play along the lines of don't miss out on your chance to get these rewards. Like you can use the word exclusive a lot, that sort of thing. Like, but it's kind of, you don't want to go too long because it's not going to make any difference to what happens in the middle. Really, you want enough time you can kind of, as you kind of come down from that initial hit of the beginning, a bit of time for it to level out, and then you're straight into the ramping up at the end. A lot. The thing is, so you can kind of see that. You can kind of see that here. So number of pledges, you've got a few at the beginning, nothing then for almost a month, kind of 3 weeks, and then it starts to ramp up again at the end. And same way in there, with you can look at how many people are visiting the site, loads at the beginning in donations, and then nothing after kind of the first week or so. So yeah, and you can also track with the links where people are coming from. So I would look at this of kind of, you can make different trackable links that you can put on Facebook and things, but the trick with all of these is just keeping promoting them. Really, it's keeping going on a regular basis, and kind of like keeping the interest there as much as you can with engaging content. Same with marketing your shows. You can run them along, you can run it alongside your show, but just keeping that content going. The other thing that I was taught to do was basically make a mind map of everyone you know who kind of might donate or is involved in the project. And because a lot of this, it feels like quite uncomfortable, but a lot of it comes from directly asking people for money, because people won't. This is another area I was quite kind of naive in it, but I put out and I thought, oh, people like the project or whatever, and they'll donate, but actually they won't. A lot of donations come from kind of very specifically asking people if, would you, like, this is what we're doing, kind of telling the story, and then going, would you consider supporting? If they say no, that's fine. You ask them to pass it on and share it. But I kind of went into it thinking it'd be enough to just post it on Facebook a few times, post it on kind of my page to my friends and stuff, and it didn't. That generated no interest. Basically, the people who actually donated were the ones who I approached and went, this is what we're doing, would you consider donating? And they did. I think that's kind of a bit of a crash course in kind of how it goes, the process of it. The other thing then is just to make sure that you're following up kind of afterwards with people, making sure you're delivering on the rewards. So I've got someone here that I haven't delivered on, for example, but we just kind of sending out a general thank you. Like it got to a bit where we'd said we'd deliver something in March and we hadn't done, so I've just sent out an update of it. Just keeps people in the loop, kind of making sure that people know you haven't forgotten about kind of the rewards and things. And I need to send another one out actually, and following that up. But yeah, does that all? Are there any questions from that? Does that all make sense so far? Has that been useful?
This might be written somewhere and I've just been too thingy not to see it, but is there specific accounts this gets linked to? Like, is there like a general one for the areas, or is it like one big one, or do you set them up and do it like that? What's that side of
yeah, so RicNic just has one account, and we'll make a note. RicNic has one account, and we'll make a note of kind of anything in that, how much is raised, how much is spent. That all gets done from your budget. The back page of the production team handbook, if you have that, does have has on it all the bank details and the process and stuff. But yeah, generally, if I can send those to you, and you just put them in here as where you want it paid out to, and then as long as kind of we know how much is, as long as you know how much is being made, it's worth saying that the amount paid out isn't quite equal to the amount that they put in. They take some fees, not masses, but so we raised £568 and we got out 548 basically. But they take it's about 1% plus 20p a transaction, I think it is, in fees. But as long as we know kind of what that amount is that they're paying into you, we'll see it come into the accounts, and we can just mark that on your budget as income. That's all fine. Yeah. Any other questions? Cool. In that case, I'm gonna end this Zoom, and I'm gonna grab a breather and start the next one. But with that, yeah, any questions or anything through the process, give me a shout. But if not, I'm looking forward to seeing you crowdfunding come together. Cool. Cheers, guys. See you soon.